Hey, good morning and welcome back, world. Another podcast or episode of Santi Speaks. Had to pause it for a drink of water. Welcome back. And the other day I did a video on learning and just to learn things. It's important to learn and not get distracted by the elements of this world all the time and to expand your brain. And this video is just going to back up that video because of an experience I had yesterday. In elementary, middle, and high school, I did very poorly. I was a very poor student. It was very difficult for me to pay attention for numerous reasons. Health concerns, life concerns, stress. I was just, a young boy growing up and had no interest in school or what they were teaching me. It's really hard to learn something if you have no interest in what they're teaching. It's way easier to learn when you're like, hey, engaged. This is good stuff. This is good information. I'll retain it. And typically, when you're in school, you are forced to memorize for a test, not to learn. It's our school system, I believe, our educational system is a complete waste of time. I won't get into that. That's another podcast. But I did very poorly. I was not a good student. And it gave me great self-doubt. It gave me low self-esteem. I was not a good studier. I was not a good reader. And a lot of people aren't. Studies have now shown, 50 some years later, that we don't all learn the same. I can learn 10 times faster by presentation, observation, than I can reading a book. Whether it's putting something together, that's why, a lot of times men don't look at maps. We don't read manuals. We see tools, we see pieces, we see and we create. Oftentimes, women will sit down and read. They'll take in the knowledge that they were told and they'll utilize it. But that's not the way life goes. It's not the way it always goes, at least. And so I did really poorly as a student growing up. And I think it's important to put that out there to let people know it's never too late to learn. When you discover, because after high school, I guess, I went on to the Marines. I went on to many careers, law enforcement, etc., and personal training and fitness and just many different endeavors. But they were all because it was my interest. And so I was very interested in learning along this path. However, I needed to take CPR, medical first responder, first aid, and get all these certifications. And I will tell you that it was a very painful part of it. Because again, it's not learning on your own. You're sitting in this room. All these tables are out. There's somebody standing at the front of the course. There's a couple dummies and not the students. They're called Annie dolls that you huff and puff into and do chest compressions and pretending that you're fixing them. And the instructor is reading out of a book, page for page, paragraph for paragraph, word for word. For me, that process, let's say the book is 100 pages and you're on page 4. All I can think about is we have 96 more pages to go. This is ridiculous. We've been here 2 hours, it's usually a two-hour course. Anyway, so it was always really excruciating. I hated it. I gritted through it, and I always did it, and I always got the certification. You got to take a terrible test at the end to see if you were able to memorize whatever you were just told over the last 2 hours. And it was a painful process. And so Monday night, today's Wednesday, Monday night, my coworker calls me or texts me and says, hey, did you know that we have CPR first aid training in the morning at 7 a.m.? And I'm like, what? Oh, no. oh, how awful. Tomorrow's going to be miserable. And of course, it's 95 degrees out and the training's in an old elementary school where there is no AC. So I'm just building up this whole terrible story. And I meet him at work in the morning and we're going to drive over to where the CPR course is at. And I'm telling him all about my experiences from the past because I like to talk. I talk his ear off, poor guy. And I'm like, man, I've had this course so many times and it's just awful. But 2 hours, we'll get through it. It's 95 degrees out. Oh, it's going to be so miserable. Anyway, so we get it there and find out it's a 5-hour course. It's not a 2-hour course. So now it's like, what? I'm building this role in my head, right? Self-destruction. But because I did so poor in high school, in all of my schooling through high school, I was building this scenario of why am I learning this nonsense, blah, 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 reading the book just like this. And I forgot where I was going with that. No worries. I have no notes. I just sat down. Long story short, I did very well in college and university because I was studying what I wanted to study. I was reading and learning what my interests were. It's hard to learn when it's not of interest. It's like I'm a janitor. How am I going to use this information in CPR? I work by myself. It's not like I'm going to run up to strangers on the street that are knocked out from whatever reason. Typically around me where I work, it's drug overdose. And we have things like Narcan and stuff like that these days. We don't do mouth-to-mouth CPR like we did back in the day. And that's the other thing. I've taken this course so many times and I never utilized it except for once. And the guy died. And that was like 30 years ago. And I wasn't alone. I had like 8 other people around me trying to work on him. But yesterday, I took this course and I was so engaged. The instructor was really cool. She was, in her early 30s, I'm going to guess. And she was a firefighter. She had a lot of life experience. So she never even really went through the book. She covered all the material front to cover. But because she was so good at what she does, it was all up here. She didn't have to read it and regurgitate. I'm like, what? And that's probably the horrible thing about school, teachers go page by page by page. And you're like, you don't even know this information? You're trying to make me learn it? That's a tough pill to swallow, But she did. She knew the information. And because she knew it so well, she was able to not only provide it, but teach it in a way that was like real life. And I was so engaged and I couldn't believe it. I was like focused and I was absorbing the information. And that's, I'm going to put that out there because it's a learning environment. It was a learning element. And for the last 10 years or so, I've really spent a lot of time learning. Anything I could, everything I could. If I seen something, I was like, hey, how does that work? Why does it work? Where did it come from? How did it originate? Why do we use it? Why don't we do this? Why don't we do that? Where did the pieces come from? How did this work? How did this come about? I was really hungry for knowledge. Some people are like, hey, that's part of the Great Awakening. That's part of the Enlightenment, is going, hey, what's really going on in this world? But it was learning, it was using my brain. It was using a muscle that is very, now that I'm a janitor, is using a muscle that is very rarely used, that I don't really use it too much anymore. I get home at work and I'm exhausted. And so, I spend some time create in my creative mode, but I haven't been spending a lot of time in my learning mode. And so when I had that class yesterday, it was just really a great experience to sit there and learn something. My brain, I could feel my brain working. I could feel, it was almost like when you're done with a running or race or cutting the lawn on a hot day, you go inside and get that ice cold glass of water, and it's like, oh, your body's just like, this is what's up. That's how it was yesterday for 5 hours. By hour 4, I was pretty beat. I was done. I was ready to call it quits. I was ready to throw in the towel. But I had taken in a lot of information. We covered a great deal of things and experiences. We shared, the class did, and the instructor did. But like even the tools that tourniquets and bandages and different things that they use on the street now, that the last time I took the course, was so long ago that these things didn't exist. A tourniquet was like, hey, take a belt, put a stick in it, twist it up, and it was really cool because I actually found out that not at all so much, but several of the things that I was taught over the course of the 30 years that I've taken this course from different people, I was given wrong information. Like I was always taught when a tourniquet is a last choice. I'm still waking up here. But a tourniquet is a last, you don't want to use it if you don't have to, because there's a great chance that they're going to lose the limb, or you're going to do a lot of tissue damage, or this or that or the other thing. And over the years, they found out that that's not true. And there were probably like 4 or 5 things in there that I was like, man, I've been lied to my whole life. That's not true. That's not true at all. Now they found out that, there's other ways, there's better ways, there's different ways. And the equipment now is so much better. There's no more mouth to mouth, You can go out and buy one of these collapsible bags and you put it over their face and, you give it 2 breaths or whatever. So it just makes the opportunity and expectation a lot more comfortable. Somebody's bleeding out of their face, you don't want to go down there and give them 2 puffs of air, especially if it's a stranger. It's not going to happen. But now they have these bags and stuff, so I'm definitely going to go out and buy a bag or 2 and tote them around. And it was just the whole training overall was good. My brain needed it. I was ready. I was engaged. The presentation was amazing. It wasn't mind-numbing. It wasn't soul-crushing. It was a good experience. And that is the way that teaching needs to be done. It needs to be a good experience, or it is an absolute waste of time. It wasn't death by PowerPoint. There was no clicking and looking at the screen and then the professor reading everything off of the screen and expanding here and there. That's somebody that's teaching something that doesn't know what they're talking about. They have no idea and very little experience in the matter. And so it is literally soul crushing. You're only doing it because the organization that you're at says that you have to, and maybe it's because their insurance carrier says that you have to. So you have all these people that are running around with these cards of information that says that they're certified or qualified, and they're not, because they just did what they had to do to pass the class. And even like at the end of this course, the test was like, usually it's like just, I want to say grueling, but I'm still waking up, like I said, and I don't think that's a very good word for it, but you're like, A, B, C, D, or all of the above, or none of the above, or it could be a couple of them. Oh my, what am I doing here? But it wasn't like that, because I was ready to learn, and my brain wanted to learn. It was like I was out there exercising. It was a really fulfilling experience, which is so weird. For me to say about a CPR, first aid, medical first responder, whatever course. Typically it would have been information overload, been on my phone or something. The last time I took the course, we didn't even have cell phones. Didn't exist. Maybe we had pagers. That's the last time I took the course, to give you an example. But it was good. It was a good opportunity. It was a good experience. I felt good afterwards. I was ready to go to work. I was ready to come home. I was ready to do a little bit of housework. I even had a really good night's sleep. Now, I'm wrapping this up with that whole point of, that's the point of learning. It took me out of depression. It put me into a good mood. It raised my spirits. It raised my vibration. It lifted me up. It prepared me for moving forward. Because I like to learn. I do. But I only like to learn if it's learned right. Learned ain't a word, I don't think. If it's learned right. If it's learned according to the way that I receive information. Because our school system is set up for memorize this, because we're going to quiz you to see if you're able to memorize. That's our school system right there. And the word to the wise or unwise, for those that have not but are considering, I'm going to say your associate's degree is kind of structured that way. Like, hey, here's a bunch of garbage information, learn it, memorize it, you're going to be tested on it, and next semester you won't remember anything about it. But once you get into the bachelor's and master's level, then it's nothing like that, and it's enlightening and good information, and you enjoy it. You work in groups, you work on teams, there's real communication, you, the professor, the class, people engage, people talk. You exchange information and ideas, whether right or wrong. You are allowed to share your perspective without a teacher in the front of the class going, "Oh, you're wrong, Johnny. That's stick to page 2, paragraph 4. What are you doing? Get it?" That's miserable, and that's why a lot of children struggle, because that's not how we learn. That's not how we absorb information and retain it. But that's it. I just wanted to share that learning experience that I had, and not only the learning experience, but how it impacted me. It got me into a better mood. It was like doing, some push-ups. I can rack out about, I can rack out about 8 to 10 of them these days. And even after you do some push-ups, you feel kind of good, It's the difference between eating a nice bowl of fresh, cool, cold, juicy fruit, like watermelons, grapes, muskmelon, oranges, citruses, or a basket of fried something or the other from a fast food restaurant that is just going to make you feel like blah. Don't eat that. It's all about what you put into your body. Not only your physical body, well, I guess your brain is physical body too, but it doesn't go through your mouth. It goes through your ears and your eyes and your hands and your ability to perceive and receive information and do something with it. So I feel real good because I picked up some information, and I'm like, I might not be able to use it at work, but I have confidence that if I'm ever in a different situation, at a family gathering or a function, that I would be able to use it. Whether it's effective or not, I at least have the confidence. So anyway, shout out to Miss Hall. I'm not going to throw her first name out there. Miss Hall, Grand Rapids firefighter. She did very, very well. I mean, based on my 35 years of CPR experience, the rest of it was a nightmare. I even told her that in the class, and I'm like, or on a break, I'm like, man, you're doing a really good job. Maybe it's the old man in me. But I said, you're doing a really good job, and I appreciate the way you're giving the information. She looked at me like I was bonkers. She looked at me like, what? I'm like, yeah, you have no idea. I mean, I've taken this a lot, and it's been a nightmare. So anyway, that is it. Peace. God bless.